All right, first thing I'm gonna do is we put duct tape on our wheel weights. So I'm gonna pull this duct tape off. And then before we're done here, I'm gonna clean this glue off, but I'm not gonna do that right now. We're just gonna get the wheel off and then we'll worry about that. And you can see the wheel weights right here. And I'm gonna go ahead, sometimes I take a little plastic hammer or rubber mallet, but those just came right off. I've got some more weights on this side. One of the things you wanna be extra careful about is not damaging your rotor. Duct tape and plastic gloves I've found is always a little bit of a challenge. The duct tape we got from riding our bikes on the track. They require you to put duct tape on. And last time we bought weights, we couldn't find black weights at the time. So we did it to hide the weights. And then we put the duct tape on because when we're riding the bike at the track, we want to make sure they're secured and they require it anyway. So that's the story behind the duct tape. Now I will get this glue off with cigarette lighter fluid. It does an amazing job of getting the glue off. And you can see in the past, we've had weights on here before, they pretty much always go back in the same spot. So there's a good chance that today they'll go back in the same spot. All right, then we're gonna go ahead and remove the valve cap. So there's the valve cap off. And then I've got a valve core puller tool I got off of RevZilla. You can get it in any automotive shop. Let's get in here close with the camera. I'm gonna ease that out and you'll start to hear the pressure coming out. Got to keep a little bit of pressure on the end of the valve tool or it'll go shooting out. In a minute, I'll go ahead and let it shoot out. I'm going to ease it on out. Just a little bit further. Kind of slowly cracking the threads, let more and more air out. But you do have to hold on to it because it'll shoot that valve core out. All right, you let that air drain out. So there's the valve core. Sometimes I'll replace the valve core. Some people would replace the valve stem. We've not replaced this valve stem in the last several tires we put on the bike, but we'll check it out. I've got a new valve stem if we wanted to replace it, but we probably will reuse that one. This core looks pretty good as well. It wasn't leaking. Worst case is I put this core back in and it leaks a little bit. We'd have to change the core. So let me put this down. All right. Next thing I want to do is give you a really quick walkthrough of the tools I'm going to use today. So I use the plastic pry bar to pull the wheel weights off. I've got a tool called the Thing. I probably won't use the Thing today, but it is helpful to kind of keep the tire in what's called the drop dead center that I'll talk about a little more. Got some plastic shims that I use to keep from scratching the rims up. And then I've got two bead breakers. I've got a big set and a little set. I bought the little set first. And I wish I had bought the big set. I went back and bought the big set. The hardest part of this job today is going to be breaking the bead on the tire. And then I've got a couple of tire irons. What I found is these little bead breakers work good for tire irons, but so do the big ones. And they're made that way. They've got a little tire iron end on them. And then here I've got a couple other little tools that I've made along the way. So I've got an inflator that I have pulled the core out of. Because when we go to put the tire back on and do what's called seat the bead, you've got to get a lot of air in the tire at one time. And you can't do that with just a regular inflator. You can't get enough air out. So I will leave the valve core out. And I've taken this one. Again, I've got the center pulled out of that. And I've got a gauge because we'll have to read the sticker on this tire. But they have a warning of something like no more than 55 pounds. We'll have to see what that is to seat the bead. So we'll try it. If we don't get it, we'll let the air out and we'll try it again. And then I've got my 4mm wrench that is from our wheel removal, not as part of the tire removal. I'm going to use zip ties to get the new tire on. And then I've got some Nomar tire mount lubricant that I'm going to use to both mount the new tire and to pull the old tire off. Another really great way to do it is Windex. Windex works good too. But I've got the Nomar in here. I put 2 or 3 scoops in an old Windex bottle, shake it up, it kind of makes a little soapy mixture. So let's come back over here to the wheel. So the next thing we want to do now is break the bead, which is removing the edge of this tire. Has a metal wire in it that seats up against the wheel in a little groove, and we've got to push that down. And then this wheel, all wheels, have what's called a drop center. So if you look right here, this little line, I don't know if that shows in the camera or not, the tire is bigger there. So as we put the tire on and off the bike, one side of the tire has to be in the drop center for the other side of the tire to fit over the wheel. So we're gonna be talking about that as I go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some Nomar lube on here. Lubricant is your friend. It's better to use too much than too little. Although I have found I've gotten things so slick it's kind of hard to hold on to. And
that's what she said.
that's what I was expecting. All right, so on the tire tool, what you'll notice here, there's a little set of teeth on the bottom of this tool. That's super important to get on top of the bead. If you put the brand name up, you're gonna be doing it right. So let's move the camera over here maybe. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ease this in and try to get it on top of the bead as best I can. Then I'm gonna take the pry bar and put it on top of that. Those little teeth are helping hold that in place. And what you notice is when I started squeezing down, see how that bottom tool's sliding out? That's what keeps you from breaking the bead. So you've got to keep this tool shoved to the wheel and then clamp down, and that will help break the bead. Now, if you bring the camera over here real quick, what you can see is the bottom tool has slid out, and that's the common problem. But you can also see the top of the tire right there. That's where I'm trying to get the bead breaker to sit. So again, what you got to do is get the bead breaker all the way in until it contacts the wheel, keep forward pressure on it, and then squeeze. But again, you got to keep that forward pressure as you're prying down. So there, we did a really good job of getting that down. We didn't break it completely, but we came pretty close. Now, what I've found with a tire on all the bikes I've worked on is what I typically have to do is try to break the bead in several places around the tire, kind of take little bites. So again, I'm working that all the way into the wheel. I'm putting the pry bar on top of it. I'm keeping forward pressure in against the wheel and then clamping down. Now there you can see it sliding out, and that's the lubricant and everything else. And I'm pushing down. I can see the beads starting to come off, but we're not quite there yet. So I'm gonna do this same place again. Slide the tool all the way in, clamp down. You can see that bottom tool sliding out. It's really a chore to hold it in. All right, and we're gonna move around the tire again. Get the bead breaker in all the way into the top. I can hear it feel it hit the wheel. And then I'm trying to keep pressure, forward pressure on that bead breaker. And that's good. Let's do this same spot again. So you can see the second time it goes in a whole lot easier. And you will know when the bead comes off, you will have no doubt that you got it off. It'll kind of make a little bit of a popping noise. Not that popping noise, that was popping back up. Slide it around again. Now, if you've got a TPMS sensor on your bike, a tire pressure monitoring system, you want to be careful in anything you're doing as far as changing tires and mounting tires that you don't damage the TPMS system or the sensor in particular. So there you can see that stayed in a lot better than it has been. Almost got it off. In fact, that might have popped the bead off right there. Push it back in again. There we go. So there you can see the bead popped off. Sorry, we had a phone ringing in the background. Once the bead pops off in one place, that's it. It'll just fall off everywhere else. So there we go. We got one side of the bead loose. Now, this is where it's important when we're taking the tire off. If you can shine the camera down in here, you can sort of see the drop center. And we'll see that better when I pull the wheel all the way off. But there's one side of the bead broken loose. I can tell you, the first time I did that, me and Miss Blue Ridge Rider fought this tire for probably an hour and a half just to break the bead. It was misery, and it was with that smaller tool. The big tool makes a huge difference. I cannot stress that enough. So again, lots of lubricant, working the tire tool around, putting the tire tool in the right direction with the little teeth down, and then working the tool around several spots on the tire really makes a huge difference. So here we go. Sometimes you'll get lucky on the backside. Since the tire's already broken loose, it'll come. I'm just keeping a little pressure there. Sometimes it'll work itself down. I'm gonna go right back into that same spot. Sometimes on the backside, you'll get lucky and the bead will pop right off. No such luck yet. Slide it over, get the tool back in. Again, I'm trying to get on top of the tire, feel it hit the metal, get the pry bar in, coming down, keeping the pry bar in, pushing. Almost sounded like I might have got it off right then. I don't think so. No, not quite. And I can see my tool's not on it. All right, let's go a little further, right about here. Another thing is a street tire compared to a motorbike tire, dirt bike tire is much harder to do than a dirt bike tire. Dirt bike tires are easier to deal with, and the bigger the street tire, I find it gets a little more complicated. So on my BMW, when we're changing the tire, this is not quite as easy as it is here. So there I can see that bead is clearly off right there, but we're not coming off all the way around yet. So we are really close. So again, I'm gonna get the bead breaker all the way in. Get the tool on here. We are really close. In fact, I'm gonna take a spoon here and just kind of push just a little bit past where I'm prying. There we go. I think that got the bead off right there. There we go, that's it. Now you gotta be careful, put the spoon in there like I just did, because you could bend the tire or mar the tire up. So now we've got the bead broken on both sides. It's pretty much like a bicycle tire at this point. Now we've got to get one side of the tire bead over the wheel, put the second side in the drop center and get the second side over. The second side can be a lot trickier than the first side. So here, I've got some fancy rim protectors that I bought from Revzilla. And then I've got some that I made out of an old laundry detergent bottle. And I'm gonna tell you, very frankly, I think I like my laundry detergent bottle ones better, but we're gonna start with these and we're gonna see what we get and what happens. So I'm gonna go in using my rim protector here, and I'm gonna hook the spoon inside of the tire, just pry back. There we go. Now I'm gonna put another protector on. Sometimes those protectors will come popping off on you. Put another spoon in here, kind of work them both maybe at the same time. The other thing I've learned is little bites work a whole lot easier than trying to jump in here and just grab some big old gigantic bite, you know, moving a whole lot of tire at once. So I've got my homemade, this one's actually an old milk jug. I do like the laundry detergent bottles better than the milk jugs, I will say that. There we go. And that is probably going to be enough right there to not have to use the spoons. We'll try it and see, but I might. There we go, that's it. So that side of the tire is off. So now we got to get this side of the tire off. Now here, let's look at this. This is a really good place to see. This is the drop center. So when we start to put the tire back on, we've got to get one side of the bead on, which is easy, but then it has to sit in the drop center while we put the second side of the bead on. And that's the hardest part of doing this. Now, this is a little harder because you got to do it in the dark and there's no place to really see what you're doing. So if I come over here, reach up inside of here and put a rim protector on. Let's come back over here. We can see our rim protector under the wheel there. I'm gonna take one of these large, what I guess they want me to call it a tire spoon now because I'm using it as a tire spoon. I'm not gonna do that because I'm worried I'm gonna scratch my tire up. Now, here's one of the reasons I like my homemade ones better. Actually, I'm gonna take this one out and I'm gonna take my homemade protector and I'm gonna push it through. And it's a little tricky. I gotta get it to bend over the wheel and come out there on the end where folks can see it from the side. So there's that protector. So I've come in here and then it's coming out on this side right here. And now I'm gonna get all the way over this wheel. I'm gonna get in here with my spoon. And again, like I said earlier, this can be harder than the first side. So there you can see it looks like, hey, that would come off. Some guys, and I'm gonna try it, sometimes I get lucky, some folks are strong enough when they get here, they can get enough of a separation in a knee on this tire to actually pull it off, just like that. All right, folks, so there you go. We got the tire off the wheel. We're gonna end this video and make another video of mounting the new tire on the wheel. I'm gonna get this wheel cleaned up really nice before we put the new wheel in. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon.